Huh. Quiet all of a sudden. Of course. What today?
God of War? Well, you should know the name by now, and if you don't, have you been living under a rock this whole time? God of War can be considered one of the longest running action games, originally conceived in 2005 as an action-adventure hack and slasher. Fast forward 17 years and 12 games later, and we have God of War Ragnarok. 52 hours after that, I felt emotional, satisfied, and content with the content I had just played through. There's so much to cover here, so let's get right into it. Here is your God of War Ragnarok review. Enjoy. There may be spoilers in the gameplay, consider yourself warned. If there was ever an opportunity to name a game as a flagship for a particular console, God of War would be one of the franchises with a rich history and the best pedigree. After the 2018 release, people were mind blown by the level of detail in God of War. The presentation had changed so radically from a hack and slasher akin to Devil May Cry to a third-person, granular action-adventure. Suddenly, Kratos has a wealth of different sides to him, action feels more personal, with cutscenes weaving into gameplay, and the transitions were seamless, and so was the gameplay, and this is reflected in the critic and user scores. Having this story-focused gameplay reinforced by new modern graphics was an overwhelming success. The same could be said for God of War Ragnarok, only it pushes it further. On the PS5, the vistas are stunning, environments are alive, and absolutely teeming with wildlife. The PS5 manages to utilize the talent of the developers to the maximum degree. Characters portray a vast array of emotions throughout the game, and you're basically playing for a movie the whole time. Turn off the HUD and it's literally an interactive movie. I found myself speechless after heartfelt moments as I felt characters were experiencing in that moment. Thanks to the motion capture, the emotions translate so well using the PS5 hardware. Battles are action-packed and silky smooth, with fights playing out in a cinematic format. Combat is riveting with explosions, vibrant colours, and fantastic art. And the character models, be it the main cast or the monsters you encounter, are absolutely filled with detail. A particular standout for the graphics department is Kratos' face. He goes on a hell of a journey emotionally since the start of the 2018 God of War, and hell, even before that. From a stoic warrior to a compassionate father, you really see this throughout the game, and the graphics do an excellent job of squeezing every ounce of emotion from every second of the performances. Perhaps the greatest achievement for me, when I think of God of War Ragnarok, is the sense of scale, the level of detail within the realms we explore, going from lush jungles filled with flora and long winding rivers, to huge dwarven villages filled with ingenuity, sweeping deserts under starry skies and frigid tundras grazed by blustering blizzards. The world that Santa Monica Studio has created is mind-blowing. One particular scene in Alfheim, which is an elven area, had my jaw agape for about 10 minutes. I wish to experience all of this again in New Game Plus when it eventually releases, and I can't wait to delve into the lore-heavy environments once again that have been painstakingly crafted to perfection. If you had played the 2018 game of God of War, you can expect more of the same in terms of combat, third-person, action-heavy with cinematic set pieces and incredible flow. Combat is just as visceral and has its expected way of doing things. Chaos blades whip around, flaying enemies, setting them alight, and your axe remains the powerhouse it always was, cleaving enemies with devastating efficiency. Haptics remain a big part of this process, with triggers providing contextual resistance based on the activity that you're doing, be it puzzles or slaying. There's a new ability called Frost Awaken, which allows you to freeze your axe for increased ice elemental effects, which works wonders when dealing with groups of enemies. Equally, you have new runic attacks, which double as explosive spectacles at the tips of your fingers. And God of War Ragnarok goes even further by adding phenomenal magic attacks, majestic summons, and an incredibly diverse set of abilities. These abilities are empowered by armor sets which cater to certain playstyles, and the armor system has been simplified to allow a more streamlined experience. There's also an amulet which allows for more variance in gameplay by allowing you to slot in specific pieces. They may allow you to utilize your rage meter better or giving you stun immunity during certain attacks. The combat has been refined to better utilize the cinematic style, with everything feeling smoother and seamless. One-on-one fights were my favourites as they allowed me to push the limits of my skills and builds that I had made, and playing on No Mercy difficulty gave me ample opportunities to mix and match playstyles. As far as side quests goes, there are tons to do. The world is much larger this time around, and you'll find yourself departing on meaningful side quests quite often, which actually have an impact on the narrative and sometimes even the gameplay. You also find a typical slew of puzzles which are fairly basic and can be simplified using the accessibility options, which I'll talk about later, and you'll find that there are very challenging fights similar to the Valkyries in the first game. These will test your patience and build quality, and they can be quite tough, as most of them will be above the level when you first encounter them. But feel free not to punish yourself the way I did and just come back later when the content is a little easier, your character is better equipped and you're a bit higher in level. The boss fights specifically target different playstyles and test your ability to adapt, utilizing different aspects of combat to bring out the best that God of War has to offer. Either way, the rewards for any side content is immensely rewarding, providing real and tangible feedback both in narrative and tangible goods. You can continue to pursue your skill sets, armors, and even some of your side quests even after the game is finished, which was a nice added touch.
If I do this...
Fate only binds you if you let it. Do what is necessary, not because it is written.
Elsa!
Good choice, lad.
And here we are at the biggest chunk of the review. And usually the graphics and the gameplay sections make up most of this review. Now, what I will say is that I could talk ages about every little facet of this game and its rich history. However, it would make this video 3 hours long and it would spoil every part of the game for you. So I'll try to summarize it to the best of my ability. God of War is a culmination of series tying a bow on its story in such a way that it will set the bar for other games for a long time in the future. You see, God of War as a franchise is huge and there's lots to draw from, and God of War Ragnarok does a great job of including the story that Kratos has already been on in a way that doesn't intrude on the father-son storyline of the latest iteration. For Kratos, he has gone through a tumultuous journey to where he is now, and now that he has a son, you see the change in his character played out excellently through the sheer talent of Christopher Judge, dominating cutscenes with raw gigachad gravitas, showing every crevice of Kratos and his troubled history. The writing, acting, and set design have portrayed themselves in a way which brings you into the room with Kratos at every step. And as far as fiction work goes, this is some of the best storytelling I have ever encountered, with misdirection and fake outs at every turn, and it's never done in a gotcha kind of way. It's done tastefully, with supporting parts of characters lining up perfectly with the narrative. We are just hit with emotional bombshells time and time again, and Sony Soljic does a great job at voicing Atreus, perfectly encapsulating what it would be like to be a teenage boy in frankly what I'd call a bizarre supernatural turn of events. And beside Alistair Duncan as Mimir, who effectively acts as a history book for the series, it just plays out immensely well. The cast is an all-star one, and every aspect of the story and writing is a masterpiece that will take you on the ride of your life and have you begging for more, delving into Greek and Norse mythology and mixing it into this perfect concoction that is God of War Ragnarok. I played the game on the PS5, on the performance mode in particular, and the game ran like a dream for 99% of it. The only time I ever saw an issue was with this lightning crocodile. This electric attack in particular that he did drew energy from the ground, and the special attacks moved at 2 frames a second, and it really took me out of the experience. The graphics mode is noticeably more chuggy after playing the performance mode for such a long time, and you do get a higher resolution but at the cost of FPS. I personally don't think that trade-off is worth it, as the combat is a centerpiece for the franchise. Alongside that, there were a couple of story bugs where I couldn't continue because a key was missing or an enemy was out of bounds. To fix this, I reloaded from a checkpoint, and what's interesting is that this happened more often after the second patch, which came a few days after the release. In your version of the game there may be bugs like this, and with a game this size it's inevitable, but when the game is functioning as intended, it is like a well-oiled machine. The accessibility options are vast, allowing you to customize your experience to a granular detail. You can change how the game looks, sounds, and even runs, with the option to change how basic mechanics of the game works, and ultimately how it runs completely. I really like where Sony is going with their first-party games and the accessibility options that they're offering, ensuring every type of person can play the game and experience the wonder that is God of War Ragnarok.
As you can see, we've settled here in the realm between realms. It's nothing much, but it's safe from Fimbulwinter, safe from Odin's eyes. And you really can't beat the view if you're into shimmering gray voids.
That's amazing, Sin. We have a plan to talk to you about, actually.
Intriguing. Come in. Come in! Now, if you would just wipe your feet very thoroughly, I'll wait. You're not gonna wipe your feet, are you? Okay then. Your bedrooms are there, the kitchen is just over there. Anybody need a snack? Kratos? Snack?
I do not need a snack.
What we need is your help getting to Svartalfheim so we can try and rescue Tyr.
To Tyr? Alive? I mean, that's... What?
It's okay. I told him everything.
Everything?
You aided my son disobeying me.
No, I kept an eye on him. On your behalf. Nothing risky. Everything very safe. Somebody else speak.
What's important right now is that we try and open up travel between realms again. You said you know a way?
Yes, I do. It's just a lot of mud.
And why haven't you opened the way already, man?
Well, to be frank, there was something we needed your help with.
Oh!
So we have a tremendous story, excellently crafted world and combat, and deep and granular characters. But what about the music, and what about the sound design? Well, Bear McCreary returns to the fold, and it's good news because the soundtrack is amongst the best soundtracks for a video game ever. Imagine having an orchestra and its raw presence just next to you, playing in front of you as you watch an epic IMAX movie. This is God of War, and you need a special kind of someone to pull off a soundtrack that is as epic as Kratos is. Not only that, but the more subtle pieces make for punchy emotional moments where your heartstrings are pulled. Some scenes had me close to tears, while others had me elated with joy, and I really couldn't believe the level of quality that was there at every step. Every step is permeated with this carefully designed soundtrack that accompanies you hand in hand through the highs and lows of this masterpiece, and it does such a good job at involving you inside the story. Too often you may have a good and believable soundtrack, but it breaks the immersion. But with God of War, it soaks you into the experience. You are there living it firsthand, and it truly is a marvel. The combat sounds amazing and everything seems to just flow so well. You go from one set piece to the next with the music being on point at each given time. And the next bit is a bit ad-libby here, but I truly think that God of War as a whole since 2018 has probably some of the best soundtracks to have ever existed in the kind of gaming landscape. And for me, this cinematic feel during games that I play is the reason I play games. I play games for the escapism, for the story, for the lore, for the beautiful design work. And God of War Ragnarok really tops this, and I think it's one of the best soundtracks, hands down. And there you have it. I don't have a rating for this, but what I do know is that it's a masterpiece and a crowning achievement from Sony and the Santa Monica studio. It takes the PS5 console to a new level and essentially defines what a AAA experience should be. I want to play the game again, all 52 hours of it. I want to experience every moment even though I already know how everything goes. I want to cry out in frustration when I can't beat a boss in the Give Me God of War difficulty, and I want to tell all my friends about it. If there is a game that you should buy a console for, it's God of War. I'm so happy in my lifetime that I was allowed to experience something so moving in a video game format, and I hope you get to have the experience also. That's all from me. Have a good one, and I'll see you on the next review.